Joining me now to cut through the big news stories of the day from The Spectator Australia, James McPherson. Also, editor of Flat White, Spectator Australia Online's editor, Alexandra Marshall, and Garrick Professor of Law, James Jim Allan. All right, let's get stuck straight into this. Because the budget, there seemed to be a lot of bad news from Chalmers, from the Treasurer, but not many solutions. Australian families are being told to brace for a very rough period with energy prices going through the roof. But hey, it's all climate change and Russia and the coalition's fault. Yeah, of course it is. Here was the Treasurer earlier today.
A bigger and bigger part of our inflation challenge will be a combination of higher electricity prices and the impacts of natural disasters. And that number that we got today is 7.3%. A substantial part of that is electricity. We still expect our inflation to peak around the same level towards the end of the year, but petrol's come off a bit quicker, and electricity prices and groceries are going to be a bigger and bigger part of that.
Jim Allan, what did you make of the budget?
Well, my $275 electricity discount that I got promised before the election went out the window. What is it? Up 56%, something like that. Look, around the world, we have seen the sort of cheap money, low interest rate, big spending, big taxing, big debt, sort of MMT, modern monetary theory. This is sort of the dogma, the uber Keynesianism, and it has taken over so much of the democratic world, and now it's coming home to roost. I guess the one thing where I might disagree with you, Rowan, is to some extent this was the coalition's fault. Frydenberg and Morrison were the biggest spending government ever. And their pathetic excuse about, oh, it was all COVID's fault. No, it was their heavy-handed, thuggish response to COVID where they ended up having to spend the money. So if I were Labour, I'm nowhere near Labour, but if I were Labour, I'd be doing the same thing. I'd be saying, here's a government that's taken debt up to $1 trillion. They threw money at everything. It's a sad day when the Labour government looks more economically responsible than the coalition, but it's a plausible argument.
Alexandra, what did you make of the budget? I take James's point, Jim Allan's point, and that is, I think it's an easy cop-out for the Labor to say, well, it's all the coalition's fault. I think that much of the problems that we are now having are because the coalition was too weak on climate change, not because, they dithered, but actually they did stuff on climate change.
Well, they've described Chalmers' vision of the future as an apocalypse, and it's something he's actually an expert in, finally. And what he's gone and done is he's taken all the money designed for regional Australia and for building our dams and infrastructure, and he's gone and given that to the renewables billionaires. So it's no money for dams, more money for, wind turbines and batteries, and then when there's no water in 10 years, they can blame climate change and then use that to give themselves more money in the next budget. So this is the endless cycle. But you're right, the Liberals are to blame because they never put up the ideological fight to the left. They said, yes, there is some kind of crisis going on, so why not vote Labor if that's going to be the case? And they won't win any arguments until they stand up and correct the record.
Here, James.
This is a government that expects us to believe they can keep global temperatures in check, but they can't keep a $275 promise to mums and dads in the suburbs. And Jim Chalmers today, he said, the problem with the $275 discount is the modelling. It was flawed because we planned it in 2021 for 2025. But don't worry, Rowan, they're modelling that says if they tax cow farts, we'll reduce temperatures and lower the oceans. That modelling is completely legit.
Of course, there's nothing wrong with
James,
that.
I believe they call that lying in the old way of going about it, because we're never going to get a price cut. But there's one thing I would definitely say is if you want a successful economy, if you want to recover the budget, cheap energy is fundamental to every civilization that succeeds. And if our energy prices go up, then we're not going to go anywhere.
Well, I think you're wrong. I think we will get the price cut. It's just that our electricity bills will go up by a couple of $1,000s, then they'll come down by a couple of hundred, and they'll say, see, we kept our promise,
Just
we reduced
in time
prices.
for the next election.